Welcome back, sinners, to Saturday Night Cinema. I'm your host, Sawyer St. Sin. In tonight's episode, from the director of Animal House, comes a different type of animal. An American Werewolf in London. Produced by Universal Studios, released August 21st, 1981. Written and directed by the legend himself, John Landis. Starring David Naughton as David Kessler, our unfortunate leading man. Then we have Griffin Dunn, and he plays Jack Goodman, even more unfortunate, decaying quite a bit. And Judy Agater as Nurse Alex, David's very short-lived romance. And on special effects and makeup, we have the legendary Rick Baker. Now, Rick has been nominated for 11 Academy Award nominations. You know, is quite big for makeup and special effects, because makeup's in everything. Anywho, he's won 7 out of those 11 nominations. The first one actually coming from this film, it was created the year that this film came out, due to everyone's uproar of the Elephant Man not having any sort of credits for the, special effects and makeup that went there. So they created it in 1981. And Rick won for his work on this film, which is, pretty impressive. I mean, no one can take away being the first, right? Anyhow, it has had an impact from directors, actors, special effects artists, everyone in, the film industry. But it had a special effect on one person in particular that I want to note. The king of pop himself. Yeah, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was so blown away by the transformation and the effects that they did and how well it was filmed that he insisted that John Landis direct Thriller. And we all know how legendary that is. So, of course, when, John took the gig, he had to bring in, his werewolf crew to make sure that they did not go below any standards that Michael wanted. And I mean, it's one of my favorite music videos of all time. I mean, it scared the crap out of me when I was a child. I mean, I saw Thriller before I saw American, Werewolf in London. Didn't really help my, me wanting to see it, really. I was like, what? No, scary. Okay, I'm getting off track. Let's go back. So, we start off. Our 2 friends backpacking through northern England, right? Beautiful rolling hills. Just so quaint, so nice. But of course, things always turn in these situations. Our friends are attacked by a werewolf. One mutilated, dead. Poor Jack. The other one survives. Thankfully. Anywho, David starts having all these crazy nightmares, and Jack coming to him telling him that he needs to kill himself before the next full moon, or he's gonna turn into this evil monster thing. And, I mean, it is called An American Werewolf in London, so we kind of know how that turned out. So, back to the beginning. You know, I want to make note that all of the songs in this movie have the word moon in the title. So, I mean, that was just another way for John to really, like, stick it in there that something's going to happen with a moon, right? But there are several versions of Blue Moon throughout the movie. I mean, literally, I can at least think of 4 different covers of that song. So, I mean, that's that's pretty cool that, one, I can hear that song over and over again in a movie and not, you know, get sick of it. And 2, that, you know, he can actually find that many recordings of it to be able to use. I mean, when you think about it, 1981, I mean, how many songs had the word moon in it? I mean, he wanted to use a Cat Stevens song, but at this time, Cat had changed religions and he was fully against his work being used in anything of a violent nature, like of this sort. And, I mean, you can't blame him, can you? So like I said, start off rolling hills. Our guys are in the back of a truck with a bunch of sheep, no less. I mean, we start off a werewolf movie with some sheep. Our 2 main guys back there with the sheep. Kind of ominous. Kind of makes you feel really bad for these 2 when, you know, you get the reference. Or maybe it's a sheep in wolf's clothing. You don't know. You don't know. But you get the first clue that our 2 guys are in for some trouble when they don't listen to the, you know, to the truck driver as soon as he says, "Stick to the roads." Literally within the first, you know, 10 minutes of them leaving him and heading to East Proctor, they're off the road. Why can't these guys listen? I don't understand. But also, like, a lot of the talking and everything in the beginning of that movie, except for with the truck driver, that was his line that he was supposed to say. But the boys, like, saying, like, "Bye, sheep, we'll miss you, love you," type thing, like, that was all improv. And them walking and joking about the girl that Jack was into, a lot of that was improv. Jack wiped his nose and David had, you know, was in the middle of a line and kind of looked at him funny. And the laughing that you hear from Jack is actual laughter because of the look that he had gotten. So they're right through the moors is what they call it. Just heading straight through there, right to East Proctor. I mean, I get that you can see the town, but, I mean, you're in a strange place. I'd just stick to whatever people around here tell me to do. So, it's kind of dark. Not fully dark yet, but it's getting there. So they stop in at the pub for something to eat. I mean, the pub is called Slaughtered Lamb. The Slaughtered Lamb. Look, if I'm in a strange place and I pull up to something with the name Slaughtered in it, I'm probably not going. Just saying, it's better to just kind of turn around. And then when they get inside, everyone kind of quiet. So, like, that's a red flag. Get the 5-pointed star on the wall is a red flag. I mean, nothing is really saying good vibes here. Nothing. You know, and I mean, they're trying to joke with the locals, and then Jack, of course, just has to be like, "What's that?" pointing at the star. And the locals become, a little agitated, a little angry, and David and Jack will just be like, "Yeah, we'll be on our way. We're just gonna go." And before they leave, one of them tells them to stick to the main, like to stick to the street, stick to the road. And again, they're not paying attention and they just veer off into God knows where. So they're lost. They have no idea where they are. And then they start hearing the howling. They're like, maybe it's a dog. Then they realize it's circling them. Yeah. They're lost. They try. David, our clumsy little loaf, he just slips and falls. And as Jack turns around to help him back up, Jack gets attacked. And of course, David, being scared out of his mind, runs the other way. Sorry, friend. See that you're, having some trouble. I'm just gonna go this way. But then he has a change of heart and he realizes, I've got to help my friend. So he goes back and, he leans down, and Jack is beyond all hope by this point. Just a bloody mess. Well, then David gets attacked. And halfway through David getting attacked, the locals seem to have, a change of heart about them and their situation, and shoots the werewolf. David looks over and realizes that the beast that attacked him is now a naked man bleeding. So David wakes up, what we're told is 3 weeks. He was unconscious for 3 weeks. He wakes up in the hospital and he learns that his friend is dead, and he tells them pretty much immediately when he woke up that they were attacked by some kind of wolf. And he's told, no, it was an insane lunatic. But the doctor also realizes that David was completely dressed and his wounds, dressed up and everything before he came to the hospital. And that's just some things are not lining up, that the locals might be hiding something. Which, first off, in the first scene that you see the locals, we know that they're hiding something. And we find out that they're hiding that one of them is a werewolf. I mean, if there was a werewolf running around in my town, I don't think that I would want to tell anybody about it. Do you know the news coverage on that? Ugh. Sounds like hell. Anywho, so Alex, beautiful, sweet nurse Alex, the doctor just kind of places her to just care for him. Just come sit with him. He's freaked out. He's all alone. Just come sit with him. They really don't do that in hospitals nowadays. Just have just some random nurse come sit beside your bed. And I'm sure that if he woke up from a horrible dream and planted a big old kiss on her, I'm sure that wouldn't go over well nowadays either. I'm sure that the hospital would be getting some kind of lawsuit. So like I said, David keeps having these dreams. And the first one that we see is him running naked through the forest and attacking a deer. Just getting in there. The second one, this time he's running through the forest in his puffy red jacket that kind of makes him look like, Little Red Riding Hood. Another wolf reference there. But he comes across himself in a hospital bed. And it shoots to him in his red again, and then back to a close-up of him in the hospital bed, and you see yellow eyes and fangs and a pale face. We don't have full werewolf yet, just, the glimpses of something. And he wakes up and he's freaked out. Then there's probably my favorite dream sequence. He's back at home in New York with his 2 younger siblings, Rachel and Max, and Mom and Dad are there, and Max and Rachel are just sitting there watching a very wholesome episode of The Muppet Show, when there's a knock at the door. Who could that be this late? Dad goes to answer and gets forced back into his house by Nazi werewolves? Yeah, Nazi werewolves. Machine guns blazing. And one werewolf has David by the throat with a knife, and as he watches them kill his entire family. And then his throat is slit. And he jumps up and he's awake. And Alex is still sitting there. And so she's like, oh, I'll go open the window to get some sun in. She opens the window and she's attacked and slit open. And then he jumps awake again. Finally. For real this time. Couldn't take 2 jump awakes being false. And this is when she's like, oh, are you okay? And he plants a big kiss on her, and man, listen, it's just, you've only known this person for a short amount of time. You shouldn't be pressing your lips up against her, I'm just saying. Anyways, it's about this time, as she is gone, that he gets his first visit from his friend Jack, who informs him, hey, I'm part of the undead now, friend. Look, yay. And Jack goes to tell him all about his funeral and how everybody looks so sad, and it's kind of weird. I mean, it's a lovely sentiment to, be able to see the people grieving for you, but also no thanks. Just whatever happens to me after death, just let me be. Definitely don't want to be one of the undead. But so Jack is telling him, this is what happens to the werewolves victims, is we just all kind of hang out in this little undead limbo party. Also, though, he's like, have you ever spoken to a corpse? They're boring. They're boring. They have nothing to talk about. It's probably because they're not able to live life. Anywho, this is the first time that we hear Jack telling David that he needs to kill himself. That killing himself and severing the werewolf bloodline, basically, is the only way to free these souls, especially himself. I mean, let's be real honest. At this point, Jack is all in it for himself to move on. I mean, it's nice, but that's really what he's after. So, kill yourself, David. That's the only way. Kill yourself. I don't know. So the hospital releases him into the care of Alex. Again, that just seems so very weird for him to just be released and her just be like, hey, you have nowhere to stay. Come stay with me. We've only known each other for a little bit. I don't know about that. No. That's very strange. So, she's like, hey, I'm gonna like go take a shower, and then we hear one of my all-time favorite songs popping up, Moondance. Which, if you're not hip to the scene, I did a burlesque act 2 back in October for my Halloween series of horror films. So, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's really cute. There's a transformation there too. Not as high tech as theirs, but you get to see butt. That's all I can say. So, Moondance plays during a very romantic love scene, which, fun note, John actually had to cut down a lot of the love scene just so that this film could get an R rating. Yeah. Interesting, huh? Too much on the love scene. But all of that gore that we got, it's just fine. It's good. Actually, to be honest, I would like more gore, less love scene. That's just me. Whatever. So, after this beautiful moment between Alex and David wakes up and, does what you do in the middle of the night when you wake up. Goes pee. Then Jack comes. Even more gross than last time. I mean, he's full on green now. Just looks like body parts are going to fall off at any moment. Rough. And he's still, trying to talk David into killing himself. David still isn't really, fully hooked on the fact that he might be a werewolf. But like at this point, like the full moon is the next day. So if he's going to do something, he's going to need to do it fast. Like, get on it, friend. Or else some bad things are going to happen. So Alex, wakes up and she's like, I hear voices. Right? Because, it's not every day that, 1, there's a man in your house, and 2, he's talking to his dead friend. So, he says that he, got a visit from Jack. And she just thinks that he's, still in the grieving process and everything. And they go back and they lay down in bed. And he says something very strange. He starts to reference The Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. and Bela Lugosi. And he says that he thinks that the only way that a vampire can be killed is by someone that loves them. Which is interesting because I think this is the only werewolf movie, in present day that kind of says that. And it's kind of a sweet sentiment to think that they could only be killed by, someone who cares for them deeply. Well, so, they wake up, it's the next morning, and she goes off to work, and for some reason, David gets locked out of the apartment because, I don't know. So as he's trying to basically break into her apartment, there's a cat. And the cat's like, which should be kind of your first clue, like animals reacting badly to you. That's kind of a clue that something's amiss. So we see him pacing back and forth and real restless, and Bad Moon Rising is playing, which I think is such a great song for this because it builds kind of like a little bit of anticipation, but like not too much, but a little bit. And then we see it. Oh, one of the best transformation scenes of a werewolf ever. I mean, you know, it's, you almost feel like real, like true, like empathy for his character in this moment. Like, you've liked him this whole time and you've kind of felt bad for him, but his transformation just seems so painful and gut-wrenching that you're just like, oh. Like, I mean, the first time I saw it, I wanted to cry. It was a lot. Oh, I felt so bad. And then, you know, he goes on his, you know, killing spree. First, it's the couple on their way to the dinner date with their friends, and then their friend just wanders off into what looks like a forest in the middle of London. I don't know. And finds a hand. Next, by the water, 3 poor homeless men. Like they don't have it bad enough that they have to become one of your victims now. Nice. I mean, I know that David doesn't have any recollection of what's happening, but I mean, come on, werewolf, can you find somebody better than like just 3 homeless guys trying to stay warm? Seems rude. Seems very rude. And then our third one, which in all of the beginning killings, we don't see the actual mauling or killing. Like, we see the arm in the first one. We see, like, the face of the werewolf when he killed the 3 homeless men. Now, the guy in the subway, we just see that he's running away from something. And then, like all horror movies, usually it's a woman. This time it was a man. Thanks, John, for giving equal opportunity. Anyways, he trips trying to go up the escalator. And you just see his face when he sees what's coming at him. So you don't see the attack itself. And then after, you know, David wakes up with the wolves in the zoo. He talks to the little boy coming closer to him. And, you know, one of my favorite lines, I think, in movie history is, "Mommy, a naked American man stole my balloons." I mean, if that doesn't make you laugh, like, I can't. I don't know what would. Like, it's so funny. Stole my balloons. Oh, great. So David's trying to make his way back to Alex's apartment, and Alex is like, "Where have you been, and why are you wearing now a woman's red coat?" And he is just so energetic and so pumped and full of life, and he's never felt like this good before, he says. And like, you know, Alex gets a call from the doctor, and the doctor had been over to Ace Proctor, and something's weird there, he says, and David needs to be brought to the hospital right away. And so they go, but on the way, David learns that there had been 6 killings the night before. And so he puts it together that he doesn't remember anything from last night, and Jack's been telling him he was going to turn into a werewolf, and, well, he just jumps out of the taxi cab and runs straight to the nearest cop and starts acting a fool. Shouting all kinds of crazy things, trying to get arrested, and the cop is just like, "Dude, go. Just leave me alone. Get out of my face." So David runs off from Alex and goes and tries to call his mom and dad, but just gets Rachel, and, you know, he's just, "Tell everybody I love them. Be nice to Max. do good in school, you know, the normal stuff that you say to your family if you haven't seen him for very long. And then he's out. And he's looking across the way in Piccadilly Circle and sees Jack. Now, by this point, Jack is far gone. Seeing all kinds of bones and eye pop out of the socket. I mean, he has definitely seen better days. But he goes in, and it just happens to be the porno theater. Which, funny enough, the porno that they're showing, John Landis recorded all of that just for this movie. And it has separate credits in the credits. The see you next Wednesday, and then credits for that. So, I mean, that's really smart on his part. It probably saved him a whole lot of money. And instead of like trying to like buy the rights for this or that, and you know, legal things, don't want to be sued by anybody. So he follows Jack into the porno theater, which I'm still, you know, guys, porno theaters, I mean, seems to me like that's something that you just want to, you know, watch on your own. But I understand it was a different time. You didn't have, you know, home systems that you could watch that on. I get it. But inside is where Jack is like, I would like for you to meet your victims. So they get to talking, and they all are just telling him different things, different ways on how to kill himself. Because, you know, they want to move on. They don't want to be living dead. And they've only been like that for one night. Imagine Jack, who's been like that for at least 4 weeks now. Couldn't imagine. Could not imagine. Not fun. So, unfortunately, he starts to change in the movie theater. And someone comes up and tries to see what's wrong with him. I mean, they really don't ask what's wrong with him. They just kind of like stand there and stare at him like a weirdo. And he's like, run! And they're like, you know, he's like, go away. And they're just still standing there looking at him. So they get attacked. And then an usher who heard the screams comes running in, and he gets attacked. And, you know, while David's having a snack on the usher, a policeman comes in and shines his light right there on, you know, right there on David, and, well, just runs away. Just runs. Which, I mean, who wouldn't if you came across a situation like that? So they try to barricade the door, but, I mean, of course, barricades don't work. Like, you tell me a garage door is gonna keep a freaking werewolf out? No. Kidding me? So the police, I think he's the chief. He's been the lead on David's investigation through the whole movie. This is the most satisfying death, I feel like, because he just seemed like a jerk through the whole thing. Didn't want to believe David at all. Just kind of like, whatever. Well, David busts through and gets him by the throat. Thank you. So now we have a werewolf running around Piccadilly Circle, just willy-nilly. And you know what? Just the werewolf running around the circle caused more harm, I think, you know? I mean, there were a ton of car crashes. I saw a body literally like through a windshield, just like propelled through a windshield during that scene. So, I don't know, man. It's crazy. So finally they block him off, you know, and barricade. SWAT team, well, England's version of a SWAT team, I don't know if they're called SWAT or not, don't come at me for that, are there, and they've got him cornered in an alleyway, and beautiful Alex comes running in, tripping over a policeman, literally knocking one of them to the ground. And she runs in and she's, David, is that you? Like he's gonna be like, what up? I mean, he's a werewolf. He can't talk at this state. I don't understand. But, she says that she loves him, and you can get a close-up of the werewolf's face and see that something's changed in him. It's almost like he recognizes her, and but then he goes to attack and is shot down by the police, and well, then we just see, a naked David laying there full of bullet wounds, and the movie's over. I mean, in all of movie cinema, the character of werewolf has always been very near to my heart, just because I do feel so much sympathy for them, because it does seem very like they didn't want this, just seems very sad. Seems like a very sad character. The only other, the character that I think is more sad is Frankenstein's monster, because, he really didn't ask for it. I mean, just made out of all kinds of different body parts and stuff. But the werewolf has definitely had a lot of sympathy in my heart. But, guys, man, I don't know, but starting to feel real itchy here. Guys, I think something happened. Okay, so maybe this wasn't like the big special effects that, the movie had, but I'm working on a low budget here, guys. Anywho, I will be back next Saturday with another episode of Saturday Night Cinema. I'm not going to tell you what it is right now. You'll just have to come back and see what we conjure up. Bye!